Laughter is a great form of stress relief, and that's no joke.
A hearty chuckle strengthens the immune system, boosts mood, diminishes pain, and protects from the damaging effects of stress. For older adults, laughter has a significantly positive effect on mental health by increasing socialization.
Reporter David Andrews introduces us to a senior in Michigan inspiring her friends with a healthy dose of humor.
It's just weird to see you in person.
4 senior citizens walk into a community center.
You and Monica are
Sounds like the start of a joke, right? But here at the Hannah Community Center, it's the seniors who are telling them.
Abby, you have a joke?
I told the nurse I was bitten by a wolf. Where? She asked. No, regular.
For 1 hour, every Tuesday morning,
Who wants to go next?
seniors share the silly.
What did the dentist say to the elephant? Tuscaloosa.
This hour-long laugh fest is called What's So Funny?
I think when I retire, I'm gonna have a horse farm. And I'll name it Pasture Prime.
It's a weekly wisecracking session that came from the hilarious head
We'll have a joke off.
at the head of the table, Judy Wattenberg.
I said, how you doing? He says, well, I got up with arthritis. I said, that's interesting. I went to bed with Ben Gay. I feel that laughter is so important when you get older. Does anybody know whose phone this is? Older people don't really have things that make them laugh, and you could create a joke.
She started the pun-filled program 8 years ago for seniors she refers to as elderly orphans.
An older person that may not have anybody to help them or to talk to, a family.
And laughter?
And laughter helps because you're connected with somebody.
The sailboat won the race, but it was obviously cheating. Everyone could see it was rigged.
From groans to guffaws.
And then,
Judy says politics is generally off limits, but poking fun at themselves is not.
I appreciate as I get older, I can multitask better. Now I can sneeze and pee at the same time.
Old people need jokes, are funny, and people don't realize that.
This 81-year-old ringleader of the ridiculous says she grew up in a joke-filled Brooklyn, New York family.
My father and my grandfather loved the Reader's Digest jokes.
But she never started telling jokes herself until after her husband died 30 years ago.
It's because he never let me get a word in edgewise.
Now she's the queen of quips.
Age doesn't matter unless you're a cheese.
And is happy to share the spotlight with other seniors who just want to smile loudly.
A pirate walks into a bar with a paper towel on his head. Bartender says, "What's with the paper towel?" Pirate replies, "Arr, I got a bounty on me head."
Witty senior Abby Barr credits Judy with keeping the funny flowing.
She keeps us grounded, I guess.
In a funny way?
When you make a joke and people start to smile, it's the best thing in the world.
And she was bound and determined to leave this reporter laughing with the one about the husband who called his wife about his new prescription for Viagra.
Honey, we're going to have super sex tonight. She said, okay, I'll have the soup.